Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to Business Summit 2018 at Esri UC.
Thanks so much for being here. I'm Mike Johnson. I look after Esri's global business development activities. I really appreciate your being here. On the stage with me are my partners in crime, I'll just say, my close colleagues, John Lenahan and Cindy Elliott. Could you just take a minute and introduce yourselves, please?
Sure. I'm Cindy Elliott. I'm responsible for the go-to-market strategy globally for our commercial sector.
John Lenahan. In leading the commercial services team, I have the privilege every year of working and seeing a lot of the ways you're implementing our technology in your organizations, and it's really exciting, and I'm excited for what we're going to see from you this year.
Very good.
Thank you, and thank you so much for being here. I'm really excited about our day today and the week. This event is always the highlight of my user conference week, if you will, because it's so focused on what we do. And there's such great stories that we hear from you about the work that you're doing every day. And today is no exception. We have a great lineup full of conversations and speakers that will share with us the way they've introduced their organizations to the power of spatial analysis, of geographic thinking, of location intelligence to transform the way their businesses work. A little bit of background. The format you'll notice this week, today especially, is perhaps a little bit different than what you've seen before, and I want to offer just a little background on that before we jump into it with some help from my colleagues. So as we prepared for this year in our business, and especially today, this event, we stepped back from what we'd been doing day to day and looked at the experiences that we've had over the last number of years with literally thousands of organizations around the world. And what we discovered is that there were a common set of sort of fundamentals that pretty much every organization engages in. It's a little oversimplified, but I think if you bear with me, it'll sort of come into play. And these really represent those activities and initiatives that businesses engage in. And it comes down to these three, all based on the premise that generally companies want to grow. There's maybe a few exceptions, but I think for the most part, companies really want to grow their business. And how do they do that? Well, they engage with their current customers to sell them more products and services, and they look for new customers to add to their customer base. Number two, they look at their supply network as a way to deliver products and services to those customers and prospects. And number three, they reduce the disruption to their business by minimizing risk. Those are three key fundamentals. And I think if you think about it, and you think about the value chain that GIS brings to business and how that brings value and improvement to business, you really see how it fits into those three areas. That's how our day is organized today. So let's break this down a little bit. I'm going to talk for a second about market development. So when we look at the way businesses grow and how they expand their customer base and sell more to their more current customers, we characterize that as market development. And there's two key aspects of this that I think are really important as we study the way successful organizations work in this market development space. One is that the successful organizations collaborate between different parts of the organization in order to achieve a common mission or objective around business growth. So who participates in that? The strategy group, the marketing group, the analytics group, sales, real estate, store development, if there's brick and mortar, executive and leadership. All of those parts of the organization have a role to play in contributing to top-line growth for the company. All of that kind of plays together. And what we know as GIS professionals is that the integrating framework for that collaboration is really the natural integration capabilities of geography. Everything occurs in a place, in a location. So geography becomes, the map really becomes the way that brings people together and helps them work through how they're going to achieve their goals. And we'll learn more about that later. The second area around that is really the changing dynamic that we have with customers and prospects. We have multiple ways through which we interact with our suppliers, with the way we interact with our customers and other companies that we work with. We can work online. We can work through mobile channels. We can work with them in their stores if they have stores. All of these kind of create a complexity around how we optimize the way we engage with our customers through those multiple engagement channels, right? Some of our colleagues, Gary Sankery, I can characterize coining the word the empowered consumer. So it changes the way we interact with customers. And this creates an additional challenge for us to optimize the way we interact with those customers around geography. Where are the best places for us to interact with our customers through these multiple channels? That kind of characterizes at a high level what we think about as market development. The team later will drill into this in more detail, and we've got some great speakers from Belron, from Pirelli Tires, from Velasys that will share their real-world experience with us. So I want to turn the time over to Cindy. She's going to share with us a little bit about the supply network as it relates to these initiatives.
Great, Mike. So those of you who know me know what a geek I am about supply chain, and I'm very excited about where the supply chain is headed in the world today. When we talk about growth and this concept of very growth-minded organizations, they can't achieve and realize that growth and the potential of that growth if they can't fulfill on the promise of the products and services that are sold. And today, companies need to deliver at the right time and the right place and at the best cost possible in an increasingly complex network globally. Now, companies universally are saying that digitizing and modernizing their supply chain is their #1 priority. But a recent study by Deloitte about enabling the digital supply chain features the fact that 98% of companies say a digital supply network or DSN has exponential value to growing their business, yet only 28% of those companies today are taking active digital supply network initiatives, being able to visualize and see and respond to things happening in the physical world more quickly. We understand that challenge. I have 20 years, I shouldn't have said that, a career of experience in the supply network, working for manufacturers in distribution and service. So what we are seeing and facing across the globe today in supply chain has never been more fierce. This week we'll feature solutions that show companies how to turn on their DSNs with GIS and location intelligence at the core. We have phenomenal speakers joining us today, very innovators in their industries with FedEx, General Motors, and the Port of Rotterdam. John, a little bit about the risk management.
Yes, thanks, Cindy. So as Mike mentioned earlier, growth isn't just about identifying new markets and opportunities. It's also about protecting the business you have. So several of you in the room, as an organization, you have a responsibility for maintaining corporate security. You have to protect your people. You have to protect your physical assets, and you have to protect your company's reputation. Other members of the audience, your focus may be more on assessing risk, managing that risk, and effectively supporting your customers. Both of these scenarios require effective and integrated communication across kind of organizational silos. There's a broad set of challenges to doing that successfully. Those challenges are growing. They're becoming more frequent. They're becoming more extreme. They're becoming more complex. Added to that is the need to synthesize a significant amount of data to make informed decisions at your management level. This is a set of challenges that the Esri community knows well. Many of you in the room, and also our partners kind of in the rest of the conference, in our law enforcement, our intel, our public safety space. Later today, you're going to hear from two of my colleagues, Alex and Matt, along with a couple of users, on how they've applied location technology in an integrative way to assist and improve situational awareness, incident management and response, and risk assessment.
Great, John. The fourth initiative that we'll talk about, and you'll see a lot during the conference, is this concept of business community. Right now, you can't walk around San Diego without realizing that Esri is wildly committed to their user community. But in the context of this big user community setting, we've continued to build and strengthen and want to engage a stronger business community in that effort. And in fact, our business communities, dating back to 1988, our first records of customer or business-minded organizations working with Esri, have formed a community across the globe, and our goal is to continue to stitch that community together as much as we can. What you see here is across the globe, over a 30-year period, the breadth of that community. It spans about 15,000 organizations today and about 90,000 individuals, from users, from academia, from the analyst community, our partners, and our distributors. So we really want to focus and continue to help that business community evolve and learn how to get more of that location value chain that Mike talked about. And there's two ways that we'll talk about that today. One is in the Spatial Business Initiative with the University of Redlands, Tom Horan. He'll be speaking with us later today in partnership with Esri and the University of Redlands. The second is a very exciting group of individuals that we work with. For the past several years, we've had a strong but smaller Esri Business Advisory Council. It's a group of a few people who are passionate about GIS and location, kind of spearheaded with Helen Thompson over the past few years behind the scenes, kind of brought them forward, and we've expanded our Business Advisory Council now to help bring the voice of the community, the business community, back to Esri and grow what I refer to as those spatially savvy professionals in our organizations. I'd like to ask you to join me in welcoming and thanking those original founding fathers that will join us on stage just for a few minutes and share with us their vision for what has become the Esri Business Advisory Council. Mr. Greg Katz, Mr. Chanley, and Mr. Grant Mullins.
Thank you, guys. We appreciate it. I think two things, and I'll let you guys jump in. One is I think it's real important that during your day-to-day and during the week, for those of you who are here this week, that you take some time and seek out the Business Council members and understand a little bit about what challenges they're facing and have conversations about the challenges that you're facing, positives, negatives, et cetera, and start the dialogue of communication so that we can make sure that we're representing your voice. And I think the second thing is GIS is obviously its own separate language, and it's got everybody here in this room kind of speaks the same language. But as we get into the business world, we find that there's a lot of misunderstanding about what GIS is, what it does, and the impact it has on the organization. And I think one of the goals that we have as a council is to make sure that we're that voice and that we're bridging the gap in terms of understanding between executives and the workforce and what GIS can do for organizations and the power behind it.
Yeah, so I recognize that, if you're a new company starting out within the GIS realm, or, people who've been in this industry a long time, it can be daunting. So from someone who's starting out, it's daunting in the sense that there's so many things that we can use GIS for, but it's really hard to get started because it's really complicated. So I think one of the things that we want to do with the Business Advisory Council is to help kind of newer groups understand what is possible, not in just a flashy demo sense, but in a real world application. And we would love to share about how some of the struggles we've had within our own organizations and how can that help Esri kind of develop their new products or package them in a way that's more usable and palatable. And on the other side, people have been doing this for a long time. Technology is ubiquitous. You can do a ton of things now, but there's still things that we can't quite do. How do we push Esri to develop products that we really need that's not possible today?
All right, so I said I wasn't going to talk, but we're gonna do this. If you guys know me, I have a hard time being quiet, but the Business Advisory Council, we mentioned it earlier, we're talking about building community, right? So Greg and Chan and I can't build community from up here just on our own. So there's a big group of Business Advisory Council members, Cindy mentioned, that we had expanded. And I'm gonna ask those guys to stand up in just a minute so that you guys will know their faces. Because what I'm gonna challenge you with is this week, you're going to have questions and you're going to see things and you're gonna, I hope you're gonna think outside of your normal box. And what I want you to do is I want you to come grab one of us. The Business Summit, you guys out here, we're competitors and competition with each other, but this is a safe place. And so what I challenge you to do is talk to your peers, talk to your competitors, attend the SIGs, attend the networking sessions. There is no better time than the Business Summit to make those connections. So please come find one of us, come talk about what you do. I'll tell you what I do. I'm gonna do a shout out to the Banking SIG. I hope to see you guys all there. We're gonna have some really good conversations. But if the Business Advisory Council members will stand at this point, I think you know who you are, please.
We hope you know who you are.
So look around, guys. So the folks standing up, these are the guys that if you have questions, if you want to talk about some of the things you hear today, these are the people to come grab. Some of what you're here today is going to be maybe over your head. Maybe it's going to be super general, but you want to get deeper in the weeds. These are the people to talk to. Cool? Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.